Assalamualaikum, welcome guys, welcome to the another video. In this video we will be talking about the cardiovascular system, so stay with me and know about this topic. The cardiovascular system is also called the circulatory system or vascular system. When we are talking about the cardiovascular system, so it refers to the heart. The cardiovascular system or the circulatory system, it's actually a transport system where the materials are transported or where the nutrients are transported. That's the job of that system. In a cardiovascular system, there are three main components. The first one is heart, the second one is blood vessels, and the third one is blood itself. The heart, the job of the heart is pump the blood, and the blood vessels which carries the blood or which are like delivery routes, and the third one is blood itself. When we try to understand the heart's function, when we try to understand the circulation, and we try to understand the other things of the heart, we always try to understand from the another person. For example, if I take my own example, my left and right side of the heart, this is my right side of the heart and this is my left side of the heart. The heart is situated between the lungs or in thoracic cavity. So this is my right side of the heart and this is my left side of the heart. Here I made the diagram of the heart. It's not the professional diagram, I just made it only for the understanding purpose, so don't mind this diagram. If I talk about the right and left side of this picture or this diagram, this is the left side and this is the right side of the heart. This is the left side and this is the right side of the heart. Let me write it, then you will not confuse about it. So this is the left side and this is the right side. This is the left side of the heart and this is the right side of the heart. As we know, the heart has four chambers. The upper two chambers, these two chambers are called atriums, and the bottom two chambers are called the ventricles. The upper two chambers are called atriums and the bottom two chambers are called the ventricles. So the upper two chambers are called atriums and the bottom two chambers are called ventricles. So this is the left side. So this chamber is left atrium and this chamber is left ventricle. Why we call it a left atrium and left ventricle? Because this side of the heart is in left side. That's why we call it left atrium and left ventricle. Same like in this side, this is called a right atrium and a right ventricle. Why? Because this portion of the heart is in right side. That's why we call it right atrium and right ventricle. So the heart has four chambers. The upper two chambers are called the atriums and the bottom two chambers are called the ventricles. The left side of the heart is presented left atrium and left ventricle, and the right side of the heart is presented a right atrium and a right ventricle. Now we will try to understand the circulation. We will try to understand the circulation. We will start from this chamber, left ventricle. Okay, the circulation starts from this chamber, left ventricle. In left ventricle, there are present the blood. The blood is oxygenated. So in this chamber, in left ventricle, the blood is oxygenated. Means the blood is rich in oxygen. In this video, we will try to understand the basic things of the heart. In next video or in the coming video, we will try to understand the other things of the heart, or we will go in detail in next video. But in this video, we will try to understand the basic things of the heart. We always try to understand the basic things of the topic. When we prepare a new topic, we always try to understand the basic things of the topic. Then we will go in detail of that topic. So in this video, we will try to understand the basic things of the heart, and in next video or in coming video, we will try to understand the other things of the heart. So in left ventricle, the blood is present in left ventricle. The blood is oxygenated, means the blood is rich in oxygen. So what happens in left ventricle? The left ventricle simply contracts. Okay, so then in left ventricle the blood is present, blood is oxygenated, the left ventricle contracts. When it contracts, okay, the blood flows from this vessel and goes to the rest of the body. The vessel is called aorta. Okay, this vessel is called aorta. What happens? Left ventricle contracts. Okay, left ventricle contracts, the blood flows from this channel or from this vessel and goes to the rest of the body. So the left ventricle contracts and the blood flows from this vessel and blood goes into the rest of the body. So what happens next? The blood comes back. Now the blood comes back. Here are the right side of the heart. The blood comes now in the right side of the heart. Here, left ventricle contracts, the blood flows from this channel and goes to the rest of the body. Now the blood comes back. So, the blood comes back in a right atrium. Okay, right atrium, but the blood is now deoxygenated, means the blood is not rich in oxygen. In a right atrium, the blood is deoxygenated. In a left ventricle, the blood is oxygenated now, but the blood is present in this time a right atrium. The blood is not rich in oxygen. The blood is poor in oxygen in a right atrium. Here are two vessels. Actually, these vessels brings that blood. Okay, this vessel, the upper side of the vessel, it's called the superior vena cava. Superior vena cava, which brings blood from the upper part of the body. So this is called superior vena cava. The superior vena cava brings the blood from the upper part of the body. Okay. And here is the end of the vessel. So this vessel brings blood from the lower part of the body. This vessel is called inferior vena cava. So this is called superior vena cava and this is called inferior vena cava. The superior vena cava brings the blood from the upper part of the body, and the inferior vena cava brings blood from the lower part of the body. Together, superior and inferior vena cava is called vena cava. Okay. Together, superior and inferior is called vena cava. Now, what happens? The blood now present in a right atrium. Now, what happens in a right atrium? Now, the right atrium contracts. Okay, the right atrium contracts and the blood flows in a right ventricle. Now, the blood comes in a right ventricle. So the blood comes in a right ventricle. What happens in a right ventricle? The right same like left ventricle. The right ventricle contracts. Okay, the right ventricle contracts and the blood flows from this channel, and goes to the lungs. Okay. Once again, I will repeat. The right ventricle contracts. The blood was in a right atrium. The right atrium contracts and the blood comes in a right ventricle. Now the right ventricle contracts and blood flows from this channel and goes to the lungs. Why the blood goes into the lungs? The right ventricle, when the right ventricle contracts, the blood flows from this channel and goes to the lungs. For example, here are the present lungs. So why the blood goes into the lungs? Because the blood is deoxygenated. Now the blood goes into lungs and picks up the oxygen. That's why the blood goes into the lungs. So the right ventricle contracts, the blood flows from this channel and goes to the lungs. Now what happens in lungs? The blood picks up oxygen and comes back here. Now the blood comes back in left atrium. Now the blood comes in left side of the heart, in left atrium, in this channel. The blood picks here the oxygen and comes in left atrium. And now in left atrium the blood is oxygenated, means the blood is rich in oxygen. Here was the blood is poor in oxygen. In this side, in this left side, in left atrium, the blood is oxygenated. The blood is rich in oxygen. Now what happens in left atrium? The left atrium contracts. Okay, the left atrium contracts and the blood comes in left ventricle. Now what happens in left ventricle? Same like the left ventricle contracts and blood goes into the rest of the body. So this cycle goes on and on. I will repeat again. The left ventricle, first of all, the left ventricle contracts. Here was the blood oxygenated, the left ventricle contracts and blood goes into the rest of the body, and blood comes back in right atrium. In the right atrium, the blood was deoxygenated, the right atrium contracts and the right ventricle, same in the right atrium contracts and the blood flows in right ventricle. The right ventricle contracts, the blood flows from this channel and goes to the lungs, where the blood picks up the oxygen. And the blood comes back in left atrium, the left atrium contracts and blood comes in left ventricle. So this cycle goes on and on. Now we will talk about the vessels. Some vessels are here. Now we will talk about them. So here is the vessel. This is called the aorta. Okay, this vessel is called aorta. When left ventricle contracts and blood flows from this channel or this vessel is called aorta. Okay. And in this side, when a right ventricle contracts, the blood flows from pulmonary trunk. This is called pulmonary trunk. So when the right ventricle contracts, the blood flows from pulmonary trunk to pulmonary arteries. This pulmonary trunk quickly divides into two. Okay. So these two are pulmonary arteries. When the right ventricle contracts, the blood flows from the pulmonary trunk to pulmonary arteries. The pulmonary trunk quickly divides into two. These two vessels are connected to the lungs. Then the blood goes into the lungs and picks up their oxygen. So these are pulmonary arteries. Same like here, there are present superior and inferior vena cava. The superior vena cava brings the blood from the upper part of the body, and the inferior vena cava brings the blood from the lower part of the body. Same like in this case. In left atrium, there are four vessels. Okay, there are actually four vessels. These four vessels are called pulmonary veins. So these pulmonary veins brings the blood from the lungs and the blood comes in left atrium. So these are pulmonary veins. So now we will talk about the, here are some valves. Now we will talk about them. Here are some valves or gates or doors. In left atrium, here are present two doors, or here are present two valves in the left side of the heart. When left ventricle contracts, okay, the blood flows from this vessel, this valve will be closed at that time. Okay. When left ventricle contracts, here are the door like this. Here represent the door. What happens when the left ventricle contracts? This door will be open. Okay, when left ventricle contracts, but this door, this wall will be closed at that time. Okay, when left ventricle contracts, at that time this wall will be open and this wall will be closed at that time. So Here are two valves. In left side of the heart there are present two valves. This valve is called bicuspid valve. Okay, when the left atrium contracts, the blood flows from this valve and comes in left ventricle. That time this valve will close, and this valve is called bicuspid valve. So this valve is called bicuspid. Why we call it bicuspid? There are present two cusps. That's why we call it bicuspid. This is one, this is two. So it will be open like this. When the left atrium contracts, it will open like this. Okay. Here are present two cusps. That's why we call it bicuspid. But the proper name of bicuspid valve is called mitral valve. Okay, the proper name of the bicuspid valve is mitral valve. This valve, when the left ventricle contracts, this valve will be open. This valve is called aortic valve. This valve will be open like this. At that time, this valve will be closed. Okay, when the left ventricle contracts. So this valve is called aortic valve. In this side, in right side of the heart, there are present also two valves. This valve, when the right ventricle contracts, this valve will be open at that time. But that time, this valve will be closed. This when the right atrium contracts, the blood flows in right ventricle. At that time, this valve will be closed. And this valve is called tricuspid valve. Why we call it tricuspid valve? Because there are present three cusps like this. 1, 2, 3. That's why we call it tricuspid valve. In this side there are present bicuspid, and in this side there are present tricuspid valve. It will open like it will open like this. Okay. So this is called tricuspid valve, and this valve is called the pulmonary valve. So this valve is called the pulmonary valve, and this valve is called the tricuspid valve. These valves are also called the semi-lunar valves. Semi-lunar valves. Okay, these two valves, pulmonary and aortic valve, is also called the semi-lunar valve. Now we look at the chambers, we look at the circulation, we look at the valves, we look at the vessels. Now we will talk about some arteries. You need to know about that. Here in aortic this aorta, here are present some arteries. You need to know about that. The first one is a carotid artery. Carotid artery, which provides blood, neck and head. Carotid artery. When the left ventricle contracts, the blood flows from this aortic wall and goes into this aorta, and flows from this aorta and goes to the rest of the body. Here are present the artery called the carotid artery. Carotid artery, which provides blood, neck and head. Okay, let me write here. Then you will not confuse about it. The first one is carotid artery. The carotid artery, which provides blood, neck and head. Okay. The second artery is coronary artery. The coronary artery, which provides blood to the heart, because the heart also needs the blood. The coronary artery, which provides blood to the heart. And the third one is hepatic artery. Hepatic artery which provides blood to the liver. Okay, the hepatic artery which provides blood to the liver. And the fourth is mesenteric artery. The mesenteric artery provides blood to our intestines. Okay, mesenteric artery which provides blood our intestines. And the fifth is renal artery. The renal artery which provides blood to our kidneys. The renal artery which provides blood to our kidneys. There are also the femoral artery. Femoral artery which provide blood to our legs. Okay, so there are some arteries which you need to know about and which you need to remember. The carotid artery which provide blood neck and head, and the coronary artery which provide blood to the heart, and the hepatic artery which provide blood to our liver, and the mesenteric artery which provide blood to our intestines, and the renal artery which provide blood to our kidneys, and the femoral artery which provides blood to our legs. So this was all about the cardio heart. In our next video, we will try to understand the other things of the heart. We will try to understand when a left ventricle contracts, what happens that time in a right ventricle, and what happens that time in a left atrium. When a right atrium contracts, what happens that time in a right ventricle or in a left ventricle. About when when blood flows in a right atrium, at the same time about 80% blood comes in a right ventricle. Okay, simultaneously when the blood flows in a right atrium, at the same time about 80% blood comes in a right ventricle. Remember it. So about 20% left in a right atrium. When the right atrium contracts, the 20% comes in right ventricle. And in same like in this case, when the left atrium contracts, about 20% comes in left ventricle. In same case, it happens in this side, about 80% comes in left ventricle at the beginning, when the blood comes in left atrium. At the same time, at the beginning, when the left ventricle or in rest, about 80% comes in left ventricle. At that time, at the beginning, when the blood comes in left atrium, and about 20% left in left atrium, and the left atrium contracts, and about 20% and left part of the blood comes in left ventricle. In the next video, we will try to understand the other things of the heart. I hope you like this video. If you like this video, share this video, comment this video. Thank you.